March, and an X5.4 is inbound. I am not going to waste a lot of time. You know the drill. An X5 inbound is not something we want to mess with. So, everybody should probably start being more prepared ASAP. Food, water, the communication satellites very possibly will break down, and we're about to hear about it. So without further ado, we'll get to a little news first for about 30 seconds, and then we will be discussing the immediate future that we need to prepare for. Here we go.
USA Radio News, I'm Richard Stewart. FBI Director Robert Mueller says that a recent Supreme Court ruling is forcing the Bureau to deactivate its GPS tracking devices in some investigations. Mueller told a congressional panel that the Bureau has turned off a substantial number of GPS units and is using surveillance by agents instead. Here are some comments from Mueller.
Well, good thing
I can't speak to the numbers, but
good thing being that the communications are going to be breaking down. They're going to stop using the GPS so much. Here we go.
Substantial number of trackers we have had to turn off.
The Senate could pass a $109 billion bill that would overhaul federal highway and transit programs. Senate leaders say they've agreed to limit the number of amendments to be voted upon to 30. If debate is completed on Thursday, a vote could come late in the day. Kentucky officials say an elderly woman who hid in her closet to ride out last week's storm died because the door handle fell off, trapping her inside. Her body was found Monday.
Lesson learned. Bring food with you when you go into any shelter.
Tornadoes killed 22 other people in Kentucky.
A moment of silence for the 22 who flew through tornadoes to their death.
This is IRN USA Radio News.
Okay. This is Mike Island, by the way. Life at 55.
From the City of Angels off the Pacific Ocean, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm George Norrie.
We are
Welcome
listening
to Coast to Coast AM Split Show tonight. Later on, the greatest storyteller ever born, Lionel Fanthorpe, joins us with stories that will just make you shake. Here's what's happening.
I'm not crazy about
a coronal mass ejection propelling from the sun toward planet Earth. An X5 class solar flare expected to reach our planet on March 8th. That's tomorrow. Analysts at the Goddard Space Weather Lab prepared the CME's forecast track, and they say the impact could spark a strong to severe geomagnetic storm. And what does that mean? It could affect the GPS systems, the power grid, just about everything. On top of all that, a smaller CME hit the planet today. Now, last night, Mitch Mattress was on with us, EarthChangesMedia.com. As soon as he got off the air, he was calling us right back because he said, you know what? The X5 class flare is on its way. Let's bring Mitch in again. Mitch, we've been talking about this for years, but here we are. This, they say, is the biggest in, what, 5 years?
That's right. And George, let me just take a second to renew my gratitude to your show. When we spoke last night, and then when I called back with the breaking news, and then to see it internationally being covered in a very serious manner.
Yes.
This is not only is it a large flare, it's an X-class flare. It's a 5.4. It is a direct hit. It will be a direct hit. I'm staking my reputation on this. I'm telling you right now that I expect the Aurora Borealis to drop down into longitudes of say, 46 degrees. So I'm saying perhaps even as low as Colorado. And I mention that to highlight the significance of this punch. Not only large, but centrally Earth-directed.
And the big question, Mitch, is who gets punched? Will it be on the United States side, North America? Will it be over on Asia?
Everybody.
Who gets it?
It's big.
Everybody. Here's a perfect
because it's ongoing, isn't it?
Well, it's ongoing now. The two areas that will be most affected are always the North and South Pole. Because of its interaction with the Earth's core. However, it's these interconnected events that always occur. For example, Tom asked me just a few minutes ago, it sounds like, he says, it sounds like somebody's going to die. And I said, no, Tom, that's in the movies. No one's going to die from from this event, not from a charged particle. However, what does occur is volcanoes will erupt, or earthquakes will occur, or there'll be hurricanes.
But what if somebody's on a pacemaker, Mitch?
As of today, I've not seen any evidence that anybody has died from that type of shortage. Now, if a large enough event was to occur, now we're talking about in cycle 23's the November 4th event of 2003. That was an X45. Now that happened to be just rotating around the eastern limb of the sun. If that was if that was in the position of this one, this X5.4, which is dead center of what's called the solar meridian, then maybe something like that could happen. Then people may be in danger from a direct hit related directly to charged particles.
So this is big, but it's not big enough in your mind to really hurt us that much.
Yeah, people don't need to be panicking about, oh, here comes, the sun is going to kill me. No. But what will happen is that, of course, the power grids are very vulnerable.
As we know it.
This could be the one, George. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it has all the makeup. As a matter of fact, the international news reports of highly credible news sources are pretty edgy about this. Not only that, we've got a volcano in Russia that's gone to code red in the last 10 hours.
That's weird.
Tropical storm Irina has killed 73 people as of the last 12 hours. Now, that's coming from the events. Remember, George, I was telling you that 7 M-class flares have occurred. Another 8 CMEs have occurred in the last 7 days.
This is like a Hollywood movie, Mitch.
Well, I'm glad you said it that way, because now it reminds me to reel it in a bit, George. I want to be cautious in how excited I get. I get excited because it's my research.
It's your life.
It's my life, and when I see the dots connecting, I can get really excited. And sometimes I become insensitive, and people on the other end listening to the radio right now might be kind of saying, oh my gosh. So let me back up a bit and say, folks, I don't expect anybody to die as a direct causal effect of charged particles. I'm putting my reputation on the line saying we will see earth-changing events occurring, and that means earthquakes, volcanoes, tornadoes, hurricanes.
Will we see sporadic power outages?
That's the one, George. I can't say for sure, but this has everything it would take to knock out a power grid. That I can say. And watch for the aurora borealis to dip way down in the longitudes. I mean, down to maybe Colorado. That tells you a lot.
It sure does. Mitch, thanks so much. We'll continue to monitor this situation. Again, a coronal mass ejection, X5 headed this way.
Inbound.
If that's not enough, a possible catastrophe in the making. Next year, asteroid 2012 DA14 has a slight chance of hitting planet Earth. In a moment, Dan Dirt, a planetary scientist, joins us. We'll talk about that. U.S. regulators warning the maker of inhalable caffeine product, it's called AeroShot Pure Energy, over false and misleading labeling and for statements about using the product with alcohol. They say that it could be unsafe. Be very careful there. Toyota Motors recalling 680,000 vehicles in the United States in 2 separate recalls. One recall involving airbags in pickups. The other is for faulty brake lights in sedans and crossovers. The larger of the 2 recalls involve 500,000 2005 to 2009 Toyota Tacoma trucks. So be careful or bring it into the dealer. Iran is not open about its nuclear program, but it should be, according to the head of the UN Nuclear Watchdog Agency. Let's turn to Ryan Morrow. He's the founder of WorldThreats.com. Ryan, we talked last time about the possibility of any kind of armed conflicts with Iran. So far, nothing, but it's still, I think, on the table somewhere. What are your sources telling you?
Well, I think it's very obvious that the U.S. is trying to convince Israel not to launch a military strike. The current studies indicate that Iran could have the fuel for a nuclear weapon by September, but then after that you still have to construct the bomb and construct a missile. So the question is, where is Israel's red line? Now, the big news today is that the Saudi ambassador to Bangladesh ended up dead. He was murdered. And everyone suspects that that was Iran. And so this fulfills what I've been talking about, including on your show for quite some time, that we are seeing a huge proxy war escalate between the Sunni Islamists and the Shiite Islamists, between Iran and Saudi Arabia.
And will this get out of hand?
Very easily. It already is getting out of hand. If you look at what's happening in Syria, for example, the Iranian regime is just pouring in aid to help Bashar Assad kill his own people. And then the U.S. is staying mostly out of that conflict. But then you have the Arab countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar supporting elements in Syria against the regime, and that means that they're going to be promoting Islamists like the Muslim Brotherhood.
Is the reason why we're not involved in Syria right now, Ryan, under these atrocities, because there's nothing there for us to take?
I don't believe so, because I do believe that there is a lot that we could gain from toppling Bashar Assad, because he is such a close ally of Iran. And I do think that the prospects for democracy and a better future for Syria are there. But I think it's political willpower. And you have to remember, Syria has what some say is the largest chemical weapons arsenal on Earth. So what happens to that as the regime falls? It's a very scary scenario.
And whose hands does it all fall into, right?
Exactly.
All right, Ryan Murrell's website, worldthreats.com. Think about all the personal information you keep on your cell phones.
Nothing I can do about
to consider now, after the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit Court ruled it is now legal for police to search cell phones without a warrant.
Legal
This decision
to
stems
search
from
cell
an Indiana
phones
case.
without a warrant.
Police arrested a man for dealing drugs, and the officer grabbed the phone without a warrant. The court says it'll probably go all the way up to the Supreme Court eventually. But right now, that it's legal for police to search cell phones without a warrant. Apple unveiling a new iPad with high definition. It's 2048 by 1536 pixels. That's pretty great resolution. And of course, it's going to cost a little bit more than the earlier iPads. A pair of 73-year-old twin sisters and former television stars had been dead for at least several weeks before police found them in their California home after they died to what investigators believe were natural causes, with just a short time between one another. One died, the other died. Former 1950s entertainers Patricia and Joan Miller were found in separate rooms of their shared South Lake Tahoe home last month. Foul?
That I'm calling right now is because they were part of the same soul group, if not the same soul split in two. So when one's done, you might as well take the other one back and start over again.
Play. Ruled out. All right, let's talk about the asteroid. It's called 2012 DA14. It was just found. Dan Durda joins us next on Coast to Coast AM.
All right. Well, that should be interesting. So, think about it, kids. Like I've been saying, you know, every day is yours to make what you will of it. And if today is not that day to start thinking about it, we got possible electrical issues inbound for sure, food shortages, bankruptcies, nobody can pay their bills, top of the pyramid. It's all good, because this is just a thing, and when this thing is over, then we go back to where we go when we sleep, the real world, where our energy exists, and we pick another body, and we choose another life after we learn our lessons. Journey of Souls, Dr. Michael Newton. Thank you, Uncle Greg. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Speaking of Uncle Greg, Auntie Coco and Cousin Gina will be out in a couple of weeks, for a couple of days. That's awesome. We'll get some beautiful Auntie Coco energy. She's a very positive woman. We love her. So to everybody else, have a beautiful day. If you tune back in, hopefully I'll get to load this up quick, because it's kind of important. if you tune back in, you will hear about the asteroids. Alright, remember, I love you all. 6 things, half your body weight in ounces. Soaking nuts. Love you. Yeah.